Good day everyone, today we have this famous Audi without Audi rings. High-tech car on the same level of other leading Chinese brands. More than that, you can buy this car for 33,000 United States dollars in basic version. Today we have the in-depth review of this car, test drive, technical specification, as always, and of course, a piece of my own opinion. Let's start. Probably most of you already know that this car is based actually on the IM Motors L6 car, the entry level, the smallest model from the SAIC brand. This car takes directly all the mechanics from that car, the motors, the batteries, and even the body crate. When we open the door, it's clearly seen that this is the L6 model. But frankly speaking, it's not just a Chinese car rebadged and redesigned. It is actually a car where Audi specialists, Audi engineers, put a lot of efforts to make the tuning of the suspension different, to make the interior materials and interior design totally different. So they really try to take the best from both worlds. At the result, we have car with the length of 4,881 millimeters, so actually not a small shooting brake, with the wheelbase of 2,950 millimeters. The carb weight of this car varies from about 2,200 kilos to 2,350 kilos, which is comparable to a Zeekr 001, which only about 100 to 150 kilograms heavier. The platform, despite it's taken from IM, has its own unique name. It is called the ADP, Advanced Digitalized Platform. Here we have the 800 volts architecture in all the versions with all the batteries. Generally we have three types of batteries. The first one, the basic, which is available only in the cheapest version, is 76 kilowatt hours, which is lithium ferrum phosphate chemistry. The next battery is 83 kilowatt hours of capacity, and it is already NMC chemistry. And the top battery, same as in this car, is a 100 kilowatt hours battery from CATL. The actual voltage here is 750 volts, which allows to perform the charging at 5C coefficient in actually all the versions. And frankly speaking, 750 volts of actual voltage is closer to even 900 volts platform. All the versions with all the batteries feature the V12 up to 6.6 kilowatts of output, and the 100 kilowatt hours batteries feature the three-phase charging port, which allows to charge this car on the AC current with power up to 11 kilowatts per hour, which is not typical for Chinese cars, but actually is very typical for IM brand. In terms of performance, we have 5 versions. 2 of them are rear-wheel drive. The basic rear-wheel drive has 76 kilowatt hours, 618 kilometers of CLTC range, 299 horsepower of motor power, and acceleration from 0 to 100 in 6.1 seconds, thanks to the 420 Newton meters of torque. The next version, rear-wheel drive, but has 100 kilowatt hours battery, the biggest one, and the biggest range, 773 kilometers by CLTC. The acceleration in this car is 5 seconds from 0 to 100, which is due to 500 Newton meters of torque of the single motor. Actually, it's same torque as the Quattro version. The two top Quattro versions features air suspension by default, provided by Continental, the partner of IM Motors company. In other versions, except the basic one, you can add this suspension for some extra price. Also, when you have the air suspension, you also have the CDC continuous damping shock absorbers provided by ZF. The suspension itself is very typical for its segment. It's a double wishbone suspension in the front, fully aluminum suspension, and despite this car of course has the air suspension, the ground clearance in the highest position is only 192 millimeters, which is actually far from impressive, and it means that this car is basically an urban driving car. At the same time, curious thing that you cannot adjust the ground clearance by any APP or any other method. It will be adjusted automatically according to the driving mode. And there is only one extra button, which is called Easy Pass, which will lead the suspension to the highest position. Now the car is in the lowest position, and the ground clearance under the front subframe protection is just 149 millimeters. So it's really not big, and take into account that at high speed the car will maintain this ground clearance automatically. On the middle of the car, the ground clearance is not better, it's 186 millimeters approximately. And I have some questions about the screen of the battery protection. As you see, Normally it's something sticked very toughly, sometimes from metal, sometimes even from stainless steel or aluminum, but here we have some unrecognizable for me material, and as we see there is a gap between the screen and the battery body, so basically it can be probably damaged lightly. Maybe it's just dust protection, but most of the cars I reviewed before made not in this way. On the rear part of the car we can see the multi-link suspension. Part of the levers are aluminum, parts are steel. We have the aluminum subframe, and under the rear motor we have 205 millimeters of the ground clearance. Of course, under the rear bumper the ground clearance will be much bigger, more than 300 millimeters for sure. And here we have this duster. It's almost impossible to find any of the 5 versions judging from appearance. This Lidar, which is a single Lidar of the autopilot system provided by Momenta company, is present in all the cars by default. The system based on the NVIDIA Orin X chip with the 254 trillion operations per second capacity. These mirror cameras can be added to any of the versions. They are optional, except the basic one. There you cannot add them. There you will have classical glass mirrors. But now they give you this option for free, so it's almost impossible to find a high match car without this feature. Here we have the matrix of the LED design lights. Total on the car we have 942 of them. They can make different modes of greetings. They look pretty beautiful, same as the rear part of the car. Here we have the lighted logo with a separate switch or turning on and off of this logo. And here we have the matrix headlight, which are also not in all the versions. Matrix headlight only in the top versions. The main difference between the trims is actually these wheels. In the basic rear-wheel drive car you will have 19-inch wheels. In the Quattro versions you will have 20-inch wheels like this, with even this suspended logo. And by the way, the brake calipers are provided by Brembo, despite I think IM Motors use mainly Continental, but we don't have any logo of Brembo on them. Probably they didn't pay for a license or something. One more cool feature transferred here from IM Motors is the 4-wheel steering system. The rear axle wheels can turn up to 10 degrees, which of course allows better maneuvering on the parking lots and better handling on the high speeds. Here I didn't find any option to turn off this system, same as for example in Denza Z9 or N9, where we can turn it off and make the rear wheels rigid. In the 2 top versions, Quattro versions, we will have this system by default. In the basic Quattro version we can edit for extra money, same as in the top rear-wheel drive version, but in the basic version we cannot edit and we will not have it anyways. It's time to check out the interior, and we start from these doors. The top version by default features the automatic opening and closing of the door with electric suction door as well. But the basic version will not have it for anyway, same as basic Quattro version. So as the basic rear-wheel drive version, but in all other versions you can edit for extra money. In terms of the interior trim, this is a pretty premium materials. Here we have a lot of Alcantara, but this is only the flagship version. In all other versions it will be leather. I personally don't agree that this side door armrest, same as the central armrest, should be covered in Alcantara, because after 1 year of using, this will definitely look not good and will need some extra care all the time. But this is the natural chestnut plate. This chestnut is imported from the North America and has 12 stages of processing to look exactly in this way. Here we have some fake leather trimming. Here we have some textile material, looks like a jeans textile. And here the Bose system, which has 18 speakers, is optional in most of the versions except the basic. There you cannot edit as well, but in the flagship version, which we have right here, this is by default. Here we have just normal plastic. The seat material in all the versions is natural leather, but in the top flagship like here is actually Alcantara, 100% of it covered in that material. We have heating and ventilation of the front seats by default in all the versions. Massage only in the top versions by default, but in all other you can edit. Massage is basically so level. It has 8 air cushions inserted in the backrest of the seat. The seat itself has 9 layers structure. The steering wheel in all the versions covered with natural leather and has heating by default. Now I'm inviting you to the inside and I will show you the first issue of this car. The door seals, the body crate is extremely high, even higher than super high floor level, so when you sit here it's very difficult to avoid scratching this plastic door trim panel. From the beginning you feel the semi-lying position at the steering wheel of this car because the floor level is extremely high. In terms of this car cannot compete to Zeekr 01, which is close to an SUV car. It is closer to Tesla Model 3 and, for example, Zeekr 007, where we have super high floor level as well. And even this part of the front roof panel actually gives you the feeling of some pressing, which I personally don't like, but the car has very low silhouette, so it's obvious it will have pretty shallow interior. Next remarkable feature is this huge central display. Audi claims that this is 59 inches of diagonal and one of the leaders in its class, but it's some kind of small cheating because the central part of the screen is 29 inches of diagonal, which is normal but still quite big for this segment and so on. Of course, if you add this cluster of gauges and if you add these screens of the side optional mirrors, then you will have this 59 inches of the diagonal. The car almost doesn't have physical buttons, only on the steering wheel, which is actually pretty sufficient, but most of the other things you have to use from this central control screen, which works without any lagging, which has English system by default, and of course which has most of the sufficient steering. Just here we have some weird translation of the driving modes, but maybe it will be corrected with the OTA upgrade. Here we also have some curious things. For example, this car features CarPlay. Let me try to find it right now. Here in the Audi link we have different options of connecting of your device and wireless CarPlay. Here we have one feature which you will not find in any car on the market is this central island submenu. Here it's basically a multifunctional switch which we can use for many submenus. But the usage of switches is pretty limited. Yes, you can enter almost any menu, but for example in the map, even if you enter it from here, you have to input the address and so on manually from the central control screen, or of course use the voice command. By the way, the voice command recognizes English, which is extremely rare feature for Chinese cars. Nevertheless, it works pretty fast, it works pretty understandable, but I cannot imagine using it without using the central screen. Just some basic switches between the screens can be used by this one. And here we have this wheel which regulating different levels of something. For example, the level of the air conditioner temperature, which is pretty convenient as well. And here we have the slot for wireless charger trimmed with natural wood, same as on the door panels, which is 50 or 60 watts of power. One more curious feature is this car features HUD, but it is optional in all the versions. It costs not much, around 5,000 RMB, which is around 700 USD, and it is called the actually ultra-wide projection or something like that, but in fact it's pretty small. In fact, it is far behind the competitors like Zeekr or recently developed Xiaopeng with Huawei projection. A little bit pity, but this car doesn't possess sufficient number of storage spaces. For example, we don't have glove box completely. Under this trim panel, we have the slot for fragrance system, which is not in all the versions, by the way. Here we have the central armrest box, which is not super huge. Here we have the pretty small cup holders, and we have some pockets in the doors. We don't even have the pocket for the sunglasses, which is normally located somewhere right here. And we have also under this central island, we have some small storage space as well. The second drawer is catastrophically bad for a car which has 4.9 meters of length. It's not compared to any Zeekr 001 or Zeekr 007, it's actually compared to some C segment of a car from 1980s, like for example Opel Kadett or something like that. Here the floor is extremely high. The floor is not even flat, we have some sort of central tunnel, but it's the least problem. In fact, the seat cushion is extremely low. Now I'm sitting behind myself and basically I don't have almost any space in front of my knees, and as you see, my legs almost don't touch the pillow right here. I would not say it's comfortable in any way, despite I have some space over my head. I'm 1 meter 78 centimeters of height, but anyone who is more than 183 centimeters would already touch this sunroof. For me, it's incredibly inconvenient. From the good side, we have here the 3-position heating of the second row, but it's optional. Only the flagship version has it by default. And we have this huge dimming panoramic sunroof, which has total square of more than 2.1 square meters and have 5 position of dimming, which is actually optional issue as well. Only in the top version it's by default. In basic version we don't have, and in all other cars we can add it, combining with some comfort package. Here we have this pretty small headrest, which is also doesn't have the sufficient length. We don't have any wireless charger, anything, any touch screen. We have just single poorly looking USB Type-C port. Yes, this car is basically designed for 2. Even the rear windows pisses me off. Despite here we have only about 20 centimeters of total window size, the glass cannot be lower down more than about 60%. I have no idea why it is so small. They could do it in a better way, but all the doors, all the windows feature the multi-layered soundproof glass in all the versions. Let's review the trunk, and first some attention on the tailgate. We don't have here any wiper, but we have here this huge spoiler deflector, which probably allows the rear glass to be clean in most of the conditions. Of course, we have the electric tailgate in all the versions by default, but unfortunately the trunk is super small. This is less than 350 liters. Despite the shape of it, it's literally perfect. It's literally square. We have pretty good finishing of everywhere here, and maybe you think that there is some underfloor niche, same as in a Tesla or in a Xiaopeng, which will add you 100 or more liters, but in fact you are not supposed even to take out this false floor. But if you do it, you will see the electronics of the car. As I understand, this is inverter of the rear motors, this is some EC control unit and so on. And I have a question. If you transport something which may flow inside of this, any liquid, or just forget to close the trunk and there will be water from a pouring rain, who will be responsible for that? All this electronics may be just damaged. The only car I've seen something like that before was Zeekr Mix. And now let's fold the rear seats. The infography is already on your screens. And generally, I must say that the seats do not allow you to have the flat floor, so it allows to move something maybe pretty long, but nevertheless, it's not a estate car practicality. Here we have this rear shelf, which can be folded in 2 parts, and here has some probably spring with nice feeling. The material repeats the material on the floor and the pillars of the car, which looks pretty nice. Of course, it can be detached easily. Surprisingly, the front cover can be opened only by a traditional mechanical lever, not like in most competitors where you can open it from the car system. In Xiaomi U7 you can even close it from the same system. Here we have the gas struts, and here we have the super funny, very small frunk. The cover of it basically is not held in any way, so we just put it like this. And here we have some factory set of tooling. It is the air compressor, the sealant for tires. This is the safety vest, and here we have the towing hook. That's all. So probably you will open this frunk extremely rarely. For those who are curious, the body is fully made of steel with galvanized zinc coating. The doors, all the fenders, the tailgate is made of plastic. So now we are driving the E5 Sportback. I must say these are the best rear view mirrors with camera I've ever experienced, much better than, for example, in Denza N9. When we turn on the turn-in signal, the focus of the camera, the format becomes different. You see much bigger. When you drive straight, it's just normal. It's like 1.0 focus, but you don't have any chance to adjust it manually, despite, for example, Denza has it. Still, there are disadvantages of this system because, for example, the left rear view screen can be easily partially covered by my hand. And basically, when I adjust the steering wheel, it's electrically adjusted from the central control screen. I also can cover the dashboard by the steering wheel. The other thing you feel here is basically not very good view. In the rear view mirror, by the way, it's not a streaming one. You cannot see anything because the rear glass is extremely small and it's completely covered by the headrest. From other side, there is huge advantage in the acceleration and suspension of this car. The suspension is extremely stiff in a good way. It's still comfortable. Now we are driving in the sport mode, but it's actually German style stiff suspension, very close to what I experienced before on a Mercedes-Benz or some Volkswagen Audi group cars. Dynamic acceleration is extremely dynamic. The car feels using ESP almost at any speed. I purely believe in the 3.4 seconds from 0 to 100. But the most weird thing I'm faced in this car is actually the sound of the motor when accelerating. This is a typical electric sound, for example, what you feel in an electric bus, but most of the cars I've ever experienced don't have it, despite I heard something like that actually on other SAIC cars. This is a really loud sound, which doesn't leave you at almost any speed at constant acceleration. The device shows us pretty interesting numbers. When we drive on the straight road, actually it's below 60 at the speed of 60 to 70 kilometers per hour. But because of some low frequency sounds from the suspension when dealing with bumps and so on, we have up to 70 at once. Yes, dealing with some road imperfections causes some low frequency, pretty loud sound. Check it out. Just now when we drive on some road imperfections, it goes fast to 70 decibels. So the car is insulated in a very nice way, but suspension work, actually I have questions to it. Here we will try some sport acceleration. I think up to 60, it's allowed speed here. Yeah, 1, 2, 3. It's extremely fast, I believe it's 3.4 seconds from 0 to 100. Frankly speaking, many aspects of this car disappointed me. At the same time, suspension work and acceleration is way above my expectations. But first of all, the interior configurations as well as the trunk configuration is not acceptable in a car of almost 5 meter length, in my opinion. Secondly, very, very weird noise electronics takes us back to the cars of the 1950s, 1960s, where you had the transmission sound all the way while accelerating even at the small speeds. Thirdly, despite the basic version costs really about 33,000 United States dollars, the top version, the flagship like that, costs more than $45,000. And in that price range, there are actually a lot of other competitors with comparable specifications and equipment. Generally, I think that we all should wait to the second model of this Audi brand. It will be a medium-sized SUV. I think it will be called 7X. I've already seen it at the Guangzhou Motor Show. This will be a typical SUV with probably very roomy interior and practical trunk. Nevertheless, please leave the comment, push the like button, of course subscribe to my channel. I hope this video was interesting for you.